All right, Domingo. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Domingo now.
All right. Thank you, Monique. Welcome, everybody. Bienvenidos a todos. It's great to have you here and to be with you in this space. Nos da mucho gusto que todos estén aquí, estar con ustedes en este espacio. I'm going to provide instructions to access interpretation, both in English and in Spanish. Voy a proveer instrucciones para acceder a los servicios de interpretación en inglés y después lo voy a repetir en español. So if you are joining us through your tablet or iPad, please locate the menu button, which is the three dots on the top part of your screen. Click there, and then you'll go into language interpretation. You can click language interpretation, and from there you can select English or Spanish. You can select English if you're an English speaker. If you're joining us from your computer, please locate the interpretation icon in form of a globe at the bottom of your screen, and from there you can click on it and select English. On your smartphone, it's similar to tablets. You please click on the three dots for the menu options, and from there select language interpretation, and from there you can select language English. I'm going to repeat these instructions in Spanish. Para las personas que deseen acceder a servicios de interpretación, si se conectan con nosotros a través de su tableta o iPad, favor de localizar los tres puntos para que les aparezca el menú en su pantalla. Está en la parte superior de su pantalla. De ahí pueden hacer clic en Language Interpretation o interpretación del lenguaje y de ahí seleccionar el idioma español. Si nos acompaña a través de su computadora, favor de localizar el icono en forma de globo que dice Interpretation en la parte inferior y después seleccionar Spanish o español como su idioma. Y finalmente, si nos acompañan a través de su teléfono inteligente o smartphone, similar al iPad, pueden localizar el menú en los tres puntos, en el botón de tres puntos, hacer clic ahí y después pueden hacer clic en Language Interpretation y seleccionar el idioma español. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Monique.
Thanks so much, Domingo, and welcome, everyone. I know it's been quite hot outside, and folks are trying to squeeze in those last-minute getaways with families before the kids go to school. So appreciate everyone that's able to make it here today, and looking forward to seeing folks next month as well. I just wanted to share with you all a quick overview of what to expect during today's meeting. Really, the majority of the conversation is going to be reviewing the draft CERP strategies, the draft Community Emission Reduction Program strategies. We have a lot to cover in terms of that. And we're going to do things a little bit different today. I hope that you'll enjoy how we'll format this today. There are a number of sections that we'll be covering. And so the sections that I'll be covering, I'll be sharing that information in English. And then the sections that Domingo will be covering, we'll be sharing those sections in Spanish. So please make sure that you're in the right interpretation channel so that you're able to hear both of us and also hear your colleagues in this space as well. And then we'll have time for public comments and closing remarks as well, and then call it a meeting. Before we kind of dive into our agenda today, just wanted to do a quick roll call just to see who is here. See that more people are coming in. And just let me know, say here or presente if you're here. So Manuela?
Presente.
Gracias, Olga. Wendy.
Presente.
Gracias, Wendy. Rudy. Juan Miguel. Jason. Mariano.
Present.
Thank you, Mariano. Alejandro.
Present.
Thank you. Stan. Right. Jenny.
Present.
Right. Welcome, Jenny. Diane, Shelby.
Here.
Right, welcome Shelby. Idma. Okay. Christopher. Yanet. Maria. Marie. Mauricio. Guadalupe. Marisela. All right, Marisela, welcome.
Presente.
Welcome, Marisela. David. Trinidad.
Presente.
Right. Hola, Trinidad. Lee. Elsa.
Presente.
Maritza. Zach.
Here, present, thank you.
Hey, Zach, good to see you. Mariela? Awesome, thank you all. All right, so before we get into the CERP draft strategies that you've all been working on probably the past 4 months or so, been working on these draft strategies. And so I've had an opportunity to synthesize and summarize all the input that you've shared the past several months into this list of draft CERP strategies that we'll go over. But before we do that, I wanted to share with you all the draft vision statement. And so the draft vision statement for the Community Emission Reduction Program is something that you all who were at the in-person meeting in May at TruckNet actually helped co-develop. And if you weren't at that meeting, not a problem. This is just a draft, and you certainly are able to contribute in this space, but also contribute. We hope to set up some one-on-one and small group conversations in the month, the beginning month of August, and also next week as well. So that you can further provide what you'd like to see as part of that vision statement. And if you recall, one of the activities we did, actually, I think I have a picture down here I want to show folks. There's some pictures here. Let's see. You can see some pictures here from that day right here. But one of the activities you all did was to envision what San Isidro Otay Mesa can and should be, right, by the year 2035. Keeping focus with, like, what does a clean air future look like? And so if you recall, as each group was sharing, I was recording what folks were sharing. So I took that recording and I essentially wrote down this vision kind of in a poem form. But everything that's in here is things that folks shared at this meeting. Again, if you weren't able to attend this meeting, you still have an opportunity to shape what that 2035 vision is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read it, and I have it up here on the screen. Let me see if I can make my screen big here. Okay, so I've got English in blue on the left-hand side, and I have Spanish in green on the right-hand side. And I'm just going to go ahead and just read it out loud for you all to hear. And then Vicky is on the Spanish interpretation channel, who will be reading it in Spanish along with me. Okay, so we imagine 2035. We imagine an international border community in 2035 where we can be in any neighborhood in San Isidro and Otay Mesa and breathe clean air, where we have a vibrant goods movement done in a healthy and safe manner with a more sustainable truck fleet and technologies to improve cross-border efficiencies that reduce air pollution, where abundant transit options and biking and walking infrastructure is prioritized on both sides of the border and allows us to get out of our cars, where the majority of people do not cross the border by car, but cross both ways either on foot or transit in 20 minutes or less, where there is collaboration on the implementation of strategies with communities and governmental agencies on both sides of the border, where green space and trees lining, oops, let me just move my little bar here. It's blocking my view of what this says. Where green space with trees lining key walking corridors and separating schools, parks, community centers, and clinics from air pollution sources is the norm, and where trees can't be planted, other innovations are used, such as city trees that can clean the air. Where the reliance of cars is reduced because everyone is in walking distance to access important amenities such as healthy foods, parks, schools, transit hubs, and medical facilities. Where the flow of car traffic is redirected away from schools, homes, and parks. Where there is fast and efficient regional transit connection with the Purple Line trolley and double track Blue Line trolley. Where the Tijuana River Valley is a healthy place for plants, life, animals, and humans, where the quality of life for the west side of San Ysidro residents improves through clean smelling air, and where water quality is at healthy levels at South Bay beaches, allows us to safely access the water. Where air purifiers are in every home with sensitive populations and in schools, community centers, and health clinics. Where industry practices and impacts in San Ysidro and Otay Mesa are the same as in the most affluent communities in the region, where San Ysidro and Otay Mesa are no longer in Cal Enviro's screen top 25 percentile of communities in the state facing environmental injustices. We imagine 2035. So all of these words that are on this page all came from you all as part of that workshop, and just wanted to honor that and make sure that we include this as part of one of the foundations for the CERP is, you know, what is the community working towards, right? What is that collective vision? And this is what you've all shared. And I'd love to hear, you know, your thoughts on this. And also I'm going to send out a link as well where you can add more comments to this as well and further help shape what this vision was. If I missed something that was shared that day, or if you weren't able to attend that day, you can certainly continue to help shape your vision for your communities at the international border. Yeah, just want to take some time to acknowledge everyone who was there, who actually wrote this with what they shared. Thank you and appreciate all of you for sharing this. And Jenny, I do see your comment in the chat box of it being beautiful, and yeah, wish you were there, but certainly welcome your feedback and others as well. So I just want to turn it over to the group and see if anyone has anything that they'd like to share. For those who were there, I know I see some folks who on the screen, was there something that was missed? Oh, sí, por favor, habla.
Hola a todos, yo quiero compartir que fue una experiencia muy bonita el estar planeando todos ahí y haciendo los dibujitos y todo eso de la maqueta y cada quien compartir sus ideas. Eso me agradó muchísimo, y sobre todo que también incluyeron a mi niño que me acompañó ese día. Gracias. Y volvimos a ser niños en ese instante. Gracias.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Wendy. And your son also contributed to this beautiful vision too, which I really loved, right? Because this is their vision as well, right? As it is, you know, our vision as adults as well. So thank you, Wendy. And I think Alejandro, I think I saw you come off mute for a minute.
No,
Sí, Monique, yo, Marisela.
Oh, Marisela?
Marisela.
Okay, go for Marisela.
Mi experiencia, hola, buenas tardes a todos. Mi experiencia de ese día que estuvimos en esa reunión, pues fue demasiado agradable porque estuvimos conviviendo todos, vimos las maquetas de todos, vimos ideas diferentes de cada grupo que se hizo,
y la verdad que fue muy interesante por parte de cada grupo que estuvo separado. Y pues muchas ideas que uno a veces piensa uno que acá tiene todo y allá uno anda viendo otras cosas que son muy interesantes y son de mucho aporte para todo este proyecto que se está realizando. Fue una tarde muy bonita y muchísimas gracias porque también la comida estuvo deliciosa. Gracias a todos.
Thank you, Marisela. Alejandro? Oh, thank you, Alejandro. I see your comments in the chat box.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get on mute, but yeah, I also enjoyed the activity and I thought it was very productive.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do too is right now I'm going to put in the chat box this vision statement that I have it in both English and Spanish. I'm going to put in the chat box first the English version. Let's see here, 1 second. And then I'm going to put in the chat box then the Spanish version. And just to let you know, like this is still a draft. You all can continue to help shape this, but I really wanted to honor what you all had shared at that meeting, because sometimes we get really bogged down into these like technical aspects of things, and we like lose sight of like what is kind of the grander vision or goal essentially, and what is that going to look and feel like for the community and for you know, all sorts of people, right? In San Isidro, no Time Mesa as well. So really kind of grounding the STRIP document in that collective vision into what someone shared. I don't know if it was Wendy or I forgot who else shared, but like really having an opportunity, right, to hear other people's visions that you know, they brought up things maybe that a person hadn't thought about as well. So,
Monique, sorry to interrupt. Just a quick note that Amelia has joined. If you are able to assign her to the interpretation channel.
I will. Let me see.
Yes, thank you.
Are you listed as iPhone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just do this little technical thing. Amelia, thank you so much for being here. She's our other interpreter for the night. So let me go ahead and add that. Okay. Date. One second. I apologize. I think what I might need to do is restart the interpret. Oh, here we go. There we go. Emilia, you should be able to support with interpretation now. Hey, Christopher, welcome.
Hi, Monique. Good to be back.
Yeah, good to see you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, Emilia, looks like you are in the interpreter's channel now. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. All right. So I put in the. Oops, and I may have accidentally erased it. Let's see. Okay. I put in the chat box and I'll actually repost it because Christopher just joined us, where you can access the vision in both English and Spanish. And I certainly encourage you all, if there's something else you want to see on that or something you want modified, please do let me know. Feel free to add comments to this document as well. Like I said, we're also going to be setting up one-on-one and small group meetings with folks, with everyone here who's interested. So you can also provide verbal feedback as well. But I wanted to ground our conversation today in that broader vision that you all collectively developed. Because, you know, it might get a little bit technical as we're engaging in this conversation, but really the conversation that we're going to be having is really like, how do we get to that vision? What is the strategies? What are the actions that can help us accomplish that particular vision, right? And that's something that you've all been engaged in conversations with all your colleagues here and with the folks at the Air Pollution Control District, like I said, for the past few months. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the flow in terms of what to expect. So first of all, I just wanted to do a quick timeline check. So where are we at in this timeline? We're starting to, you had a chance to kind of look at the draft vision and kind of hear it as well, the draft vision you all collectively helped create. Right now, we're going to be reviewing the and having you all provide an opportunity to provide feedback on the draft strategies. We may not be able to get through all the draft strategies today. That's okay. We put it on the timeline that it's going to take us actually a couple of meetings to at least get through all of these strategies that you all help create. And then in September, October, hope to have the SERP document for you all to be able to review. But the biggest and probably most important of the SERP document is what we're going to be discussing today and also next month as well, which are the SERP strategies. So when you receive the SERP document in September and October for review, you are actually going to have read the majority of it already, because it's actually part of our conversation today and then also next month as well. So with that, let's see. I'm gonna go back to my slideshow here. Okay. All right, so with that, I just wanted to, again, kind of give us a brief overview of what were those key priorities that you all helped to identify. So the priorities were around passenger vehicles, especially around idling at the port of entry, but also traffic circulation, right, in San Isidro area, that is having cars lined up by Wilson Elementary, right? Having vehicles backed up for miles on Dairy Mart Road and other streets as well. There were also community care issues, right? Where folks really wanted to make sure that there are strategies in place that are protecting those that are most vulnerable to air pollution. So thinking about children, elderly, those who have chronic illnesses, right? Making sure that they are protected. You also identified cross-border issues, right? Odor from sewage from the Tijuana River, smoke from trash burning, even industrial pollution as well. Also identified other mobile sources. So like, for example, dust coming from Border Patrol operations, pollution coming from freight trains and the rail yard that's right in the heart of San Isidro. Also from nearby airports as well. You also, folks talked a lot about, really concerned about idling trucks at the port of entry, also operations of warehouses, and then kind of housing around the 905, getting closer and closer to kind of the warehouse area, folks having a lot of concerns around that. So today, like I mentioned, we're gonna go over kind of what's the general goal to accomplish for each one of these things. What are the strategies that you've all identified, and what are some specific actions? Much of what you're going to see today are things that you've already been engaging with the past few months. All I've done is kind of summarize that and try to make it as cohesive as possible. But before I jump into kind of presenting that, I'm going to put in the chat box a couple of resources for you all to be able to use and navigate as I'm sharing with you all. So each one of these sections is broken out. Again, goal, strategy, and actions. And that's what we'll be going over today. So I have this in both English and Spanish. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat box the English one first. You can follow along with us. And then I'm going to put in the chat box the Spanish version as well. Thank you for your patience. I just want to make sure that you have at your fingertips everything that we have at our fingertips as well, okay? So you can follow along with us as well. These are Google documents, and so you can actually, if there's something in here you're like, oh, I want to add this to it, you can actually add comments on the side. So feel free to interact with the document during this meeting or even after this meeting. This is your document to interact with, and we hope to be able to get some of that feedback as well from you all through that, but also through this conversation today. So in terms of the flow, I'll be sharing with you all, we'll be going through each one of these sections. Again, we may not get through all the sections today, but I'll be reading an overall arching goal. And basically the goal that was kind of summarized and developed here is from notes of multiple months of conversations with you all. But again, if there's something that doesn't 100% reflect what you've shared, we're going to have some time at the end of each section for you to share feedback and how things could be changed and what have you. So you share the goal, and then we'll share the strategies, and within each strategy we'll highlight, not every single one, but we'll highlight some of the actions within those strategies as well. And then at the end of each section, I'm going to post a poll to kind of do a temperature check to see, did what you heard reflect what you shared, or does it somewhat generally reflect and there needs to be edits and modifications here or there, or did it not reflect at all? So really, it's not an official vote. It's more of a temperature check to help us engage in the conversation together today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start this process. So for passenger vehicles, the goal that I have written here, again, this is really a summary of what I've been hearing from multiple meetings with you all. But again, and you're going to see on the slide deck at the top, it's going to say draft, because I really want to emphasize this is not a final document. This is not a final language. You all, I encourage you all to continue to massage this and make this what you need it to be. All right. So all of this is still in draft form, but I did my best to try to capture from what I was hearing in the various conversations what these overarching goals were. So the first goal is around passenger vehicles. And so it's reduce passenger vehicle idling at the port of entry and through the community in San Isidro by improving traffic circulation, transit, and active transportation, such as walking and biking infrastructure and options. And so from that, there are a list of priorities, or I'm sorry, of strategies that you've all have started to identify. The first is around advocating for policies, plans, and actions that support the reduction of emissions from passenger vehicles and provide zero emission alternatives. So some of the actions that would support this particular strategy include, let's see, supporting transit and pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure as a funding priority for all SANDAG or regional planning projects throughout the region. Support an early transition to zero emission transit or zero emission buses. Let's see. Work with Mexican and US authorities to enforce laws on passenger vehicle emissions. So making sure that that is in place. A second strategy is support and fund incentive programs to reduce emissions from passenger vehicles and provides for zero emission alternatives. So some actions around that you all have mentioned is to support and implement the Clean Cars for All vehicle rebate program that allows people to trade in older, dirtier vehicles for newer, cleaner electric vehicles. So it provides funding for community members to be able to do that. Let's see, and implement electric vehicle charging infrastructure program in San Ysidro and Otay Mesa, so that once there's a transition towards electric vehicles, right, there is that charging infrastructure to allow for those types of vehicles to move forward, and specifically support incentive programs at the state level to have those state level dollars coming into the community. For strategy 3 is improve transportation circulation in San Ysidro to reduce emissions from passenger vehicles. So some of the strategies that you've all listed here was to evaluate and alter traffic routes at pickup and drop-off areas near the border, provide more temporary parking, 30 minutes max, to prevent people from driving around, have no idling zones at parking locations near the border and near schools, ensure the coordination of street lights to enhance the flow of traffic, particularly at Dairy Mart, Calle Primera, and San Ysidro Boulevard, allow for longer term parking options connected to transit to allow people to not have to cross them into Mexico with their car. Work with Sandag and Caltrans to evaluate the closure of an on-ramp into Mexico from Camino de la Plaza to prevent idling vehicles backing up into the city streets. And I'm not reading every single one of these, but I'm just highlighting a few actions that would fit under here. Let's see, I'm going to actually go to the next section here. So strategy number 4 is around enhancing pedestrian, bicyclist, and transit rider efficiency and experience crossing the border through programs, education, technology, incentives, and infrastructure, and reduce passenger vehicle crossings and emissions. So some of the strategies that you all have identified either have come up with from scratch or looked at previous planning efforts, right, that Sandag and Caltrans provided this group, include having a priority process for pedestrians and cyclists to cross the border much more quickly, free crossing check-ins, having a daily commuter pass, dedicated bike lanes and network, smart mobility center or mobility hub, cross-border transit service, and then also bilingual education program as well to share this information with communities on both sides of the border. Let's see. And then also support and incentivize bicycle use to cross the border and incorporate into existing local and regional bike networks, just to name a few. And with number 5, advocate for California Air Resources Board, CARB, let me just move my thing here, state implementation plan actions that support the reduction of emissions of passenger vehicles or require zero emission alternatives. So some of these CARB actions that you all checked that you would be in support of is the Clean Mile Standard and Incentive Program, and then also making sure that for used vehicles that there's a certified market, meaning that it's certified that they are in compliance with regulations around emissions and pollution and all of that. And then lastly, as a strategy for passenger vehicles, you all really wanted to emphasize improving transit services, operations programs, and amenities to make transit a more viable alternative to passenger vehicle use for people getting to the border and crossing the border into the US. And some of the actions under this strategy that you all listed include a San Ysidro mobility hub, supporting a rapid Route 640, a cross-border trolley, increasing frequency of transit service every 10 minutes. Let's see, cross-border transit fare incentives. Let's see, also mentioning grade separations like on the blue line. And let's see, what else? I think that's all I'll mention here for now, because I don't want to go over every single one. But I know that was a lot to cover. And I just want to let you know, this is not the first time we're going to engage in this conversation. This is just, we're kind of setting the groundwork and sharing back with you all what we heard and what we've summarized as well. So these here, again, are the actions, and what I read for you are some of the, the strategies, and what I read for you were some of the actions under each one of those things. I don't want to be the only one talking, and so I'm going to actually put up a poll up here, and you'll see it in just a minute. Should be able to see it. If for some reason the poll question cuts off, you can expand the box where you can hover over the line, and then it'll read out the full sentence. So I encourage you all to take a minute to take this poll. I'd love to hear from you all. Does it reflect what you all shared with us? Does it generally reflect? And maybe there needs to be some modifications, some changes, some additions. We may have missed something. Or does it not reflect at all, right? Like we're like way off base in terms of, you know, what we have on this page. Like we completely misunderstood what folks were sharing with us. So love to, I'm gonna keep the poll up for another 30 seconds or so. Go ahead and take a minute to take this poll. Again, we want to hear from you all. This again is a temperature check. It's not an official poll, but it's just going to help guide us in the conversation with you all today. All right. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds. Please take the poll. I think only about half of you have taken the poll so far. So if you haven't done so already, please do take the poll. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share poll results with you all. And the poll here. And share results. Can you all see the screen okay? Can you see the results?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. All right, so for the most part, right, the majority of folks who took the poll said, hey, you know what, it reflects what we shared, right? There were some folks who also were like, well, it generally reflects what we shared, but there's room for improvement, right? There's things that need to be added. There's things that need to be maybe edited, right? From what was shared. For someone who wrote, it reflects what you shared. I'd love to hear from you, like, why did it reflect what you shared? Who chose the first one? I need one volunteer to share. Are people getting shy on me? We've been in way too many meetings to be shy at this point, but well, let's go to this next question, because this to me is interesting, right? So it reflects generally, right, what we shared. For those who mentioned this, what's missing, or what maybe we misunderstood? Love to hear from the folks who checked this second one. Generally reflects what we shared. What else should we modify about this?
Monique, this is Alejandro. I chose that second one just because I'm more of like a visual person that needs to like process things. And
Yeah,
it feels like it's just like maybe 6 points are not enough. And I understand that you have like supporting documents. So for me, it's just like looking at the other documents, but it looks like it generally is talking what we want to address, but I would rather like go through like point by point and read if it's completely reflecting what we wanted.
yeah, absolutely, Alejandro. And I appreciate that comment, because 6 points, one of the challenges is like, how do we organize what everyone has shared, right? So even though it's 6 points, there's probably about 40 different actions, right? For that fall under these 6 points altogether, but it's a lot to take in at once. So I appreciate that. But again, Alejandro, there's going to be time to process that as well. And this is just the first pass. Anybody else want to share for this one here? Okay. I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to actually turn it over to Domingo, who is going to share the next priority item with you all. And he'll be sharing this in Spanish. Okay, Domingo?
Oh, muy bien. Muchas gracias, Monique. Espero que sea un cambio que sea bienvenido por todos, que ahora yo voy a estar presentando en español. La siguiente categoría que vamos a revisar es la de asistencia comunitaria. Y el objetivo dentro de esta categoría es proteger a los niños, a los adultos mayores, enfermos de salud y otros grupos vulnerables a la exposición de aire comunitario. Esta fue una categoría que nació nuevamente de conversaciones con todos ustedes y como parte de la retroalimentación que recibimos de ustedes en el grupo. Monique, si podemos ir a la siguiente diapositiva. Gracias. Entonces, la primera estrategia que tenemos como parte de asistencia comunitaria es reducir la exposición al aire contaminado en las escuelas. Este fue un comentario que recibimos en repetidas ocasiones, entonces es algo muy importante que ustedes identificaron. Y algunas de las acciones que estamos incluyendo aquí, que ustedes también mencionaron, fue la implementación de tecnologías de sistemas de filtración de aire para las escuelas para los distritos escolares. También priorizar el financiamiento que apoye a camiones de a cero emisiones y también a cambios en la infraestructura para poder recibir estos camiones. También colaborar con escuelas para desarrollar nuevas oportunidades de financiamiento y asegurarnos que tengan acceso a este tipo de tecnologías. La siguiente estrategia sería reducir exposición de los residentes a la contaminación del aire. Y una acción muy específica dentro de esta estrategia es desarrollar e implementar un programa residencial de filtrado de aire y de monitoreo con un volumen de hasta 1,000 hogares dentro de la comunidad de la frontera internacional. Algo que me gustaría resaltar de esta acción es que esto es un programa que ya ha estado teniendo mucho éxito en la otra comunidad en la que estamos trabajando con este programa, que es la comunidad de Portside, o son las comunidades que están en el puerto, que es Barrio Logan, Logan Heights, Sherman Heights y el oeste de National City. Este programa arrancó en esas comunidades y estamos con el objetivo de expanderlo ahora a la comunidad fronteriza también. La siguiente estrategia es incrementar la presencia de APCD, de nuestra agencia, en la comunidad internacional. Parte de las acciones que esto incluiría sería apoyar con el cumplimiento de los reglamentos y de los permisos que nuestra agencia da a los negocios para buscar un modelo de financiación fuera de los fondos dedicados a la justicia ambiental para mantener una mayor presencia activa en las comunidades de justicia ambiental. También incrementar la disponibilidad de los inspectores para que también estén presentes en la comunidad y que estén más involucrados en esta comunidad. Incrementar la frecuencia de inspecciones de fuentes estacionarias y también de fuentes móviles de contaminación. También supervisar cerca de las áreas que son de mayor preocupación de fuentes que no están reguladas para asegurarnos que sepamos qué es lo que está sucediendo. Y también incrementar el alcance comunitario dentro de las comunidades internacional fronteriza, para que así podamos dar a conocer los procedimientos con los que nosotros trabajamos para mantener el aire limpio y garantizar que estemos respondiendo a las preocupaciones de la comunidad. Entonces, una estrategia muy importante. La siguiente estrategia sería la reducción de exposición de residentes ante la contaminación del aire. Perdón, esta creo que está repetida. Entonces me voy a ir a la siguiente. Sería reducir la exposición de receptores sensibles situados a menos de 500 pies de las autopistas, de almacenes y de la industria. Entonces, esto sería, una de las acciones sería apoyar la petición de la comunidad para que Caltrans desarrolle barreras, ya sea de vegetación o de muros a lo largo de la carretera interestatal 5 o del Freeway 5, en las partes donde sea posible, especialmente junto a escuelas o instalaciones de guarderías, parques, etcétera. Y otra acción también importante bajo esta estrategia sería apoyar nuevas regulaciones para exigir que todas las nuevas viviendas y otros receptores sensibles como guarderías, etcétera, instalen zonas de amortiguación con paisajes. Por ejemplo, consultar el manual de calidad de aire y uso de suelo que la Junta de Recursos de Aire del Estado ha desarrollado como sistemas de filtración de aire en interiores, etcétera. En pocas palabras, incluir más sistemas que puedan proteger a las personas, a los receptores sensibles. Next slide, please. Siguiente diapositiva. La siguiente estrategia sería planificar y priorizar una integración de áreas verdes urbanas cerca de escuelas, parques, centros para gente de la tercera edad y centros de salud, etcétera. Algunas de las acciones que esta estrategia incluye sería buscar oportunidades de becas de subvención para poder financiar este tipo de proyectos de áreas verdes. También apoyar la creación y priorización de espacios verdes urbanos, es decir, con árboles y vegetaciones en las calles, cerca de escuelas, de parques, etcétera. Y también trabajar con gente que se especialice en el cuidado de árboles en la ciudad para identificar qué especies de árboles son las más adecuadas para que apoyen la filtración de la calidad del aire en San Isidro y en la Mesa de Otay. La siguiente estrategia sería la financiación e implementación de programas escolares. Las acciones que se incluyen bajo esta estrategia sería identificar socios comunitarios para apoyar en la administración y educación comunitaria para un programa de banderas en las escuelas de San Isidro. Este tipo de programas ayudan a notificar a las escuelas cuando no es muy seguro que los niños salgan a hacer ejercicio al aire libre, etcétera, si es que hay alguna indicación de que la calidad del aire no está muy bien en ese momento. También podemos identificar agentes locales como profesores, padres de familia, estudiantes, etcétera, que puedan ser líderes de este tipo de programas en cada escuela que esté participando. Y también buscar oportunidades de financiamiento para apoyar este tipo de programas. La siguiente estrategia sería expandir monitores sensibles para las partículas, para las micropartículas, que estas acciones incluirían buscar nuevas oportunidades de trabajar con este grupo comunitario para crear un método de supervisión para asegurarnos que estamos revisando cómo se ve el aire en tiempo real. También complementar la red de monitoreo de partículas ultrafinas en San Isidro y en la Mesa de Otay y cubrir una mayor área dentro de la comunidad, ubicar sensores de calidad del aire con un monitor de referencia en una de las estaciones de monitoreo que ya tenemos en existencia en San Isidro. También proporcionar los datos que estamos colectando, así como información meteorológica en tiempo real para que los miembros de la comunidad tengan este tipo de información y realizar un seguimiento con las tendencias de la concentración de estos contaminantes a lo largo del tiempo para ayudar a determinar si en efecto las estrategias que estamos identificando están siendo efectivas o no. La siguiente estrategia sería abogar por corredores de bajas emisiones cerca de poblaciones de gente de la tercera edad en San Isidro y en la Mesa de Otay. Este tipo de zonas podemos buscarlas no solamente en San Isidro y en Otay, pero también en otras comunidades desfavorecidas. Y la última estrategia bajo esta categoría sería desarrollar un plan para cuantificar y priorizar los riesgos de salud comunitarios provenientes de contaminación del aire. Esto sería algo que haríamos en consulta con la Junta de Recursos de Aire de California y este comité, este grupo, para identificar metas y objetivos del análisis de riesgos a la salud. Este ejercicio lo hicimos también con la otra comunidad que estamos trabajando en el puerto y fue muy útil para poder identificar no solamente los riesgos a la salud de los diferentes contaminantes, sino cuáles son las fuentes que están generando este tipo de contaminantes. Fue un ejercicio muy informativo y sería algo muy bueno también para realizar en esta comunidad internacional. Creo que esto concluye todas las estrategias dentro de esta categoría. Siguiente diapositiva, por favor. Next slide, please. De hecho, creo que lo que sigue es exacto, la encuesta. Entonces, muchas gracias, Monique. Tenemos la encuesta ya en la pantalla, así que si desean, por favor, contestar en este momento, la vamos a tener por algunos segundos para dar oportunidad que contesten. En la misma pregunta que en la ocasión pasada, ¿qué tanto de lo que identificamos aquí como las estrategias bajo el Community Care están reflejando lo que compartieron en la reunión y qué tanto necesita a lo mejor un poco más de trabajo para que refleje lo que compartieron? Y estoy viendo que están contestando varias personas. Vamos a dejarle unos segundos más y animar a todos a que nos den su respuesta para después comentar. Muy bien. La vez pasada tuvimos a 11 respuestas, así que mínimo debemos tener 11 respuestas esta vez también. Ok, ya veo que tenemos 11, pero si alguien más se anima, adelante. Y yo les voy a hacer la misma pregunta que hizo Monique. A alguien que desee como voluntario o voluntaria compartirnos su respuesta, compartir un poquito más acerca de su respuesta, porque compartieron lo que están respondiendo. Alguien que guste participar. No es obligatorio, pero los animo a que nos compartan para que todos sepamos más o menos, que nos informemos de qué es lo que están pensando, qué es lo que los lleva a compartir esta respuesta.
Yo, pues sí se
Gracias, Wendy.
refleja, sí se refleja todo lo que hemos avanzado, porque al principio estábamos como que, ¿por dónde va todo esto? Y ahora pues ya nos sentimos más como más bien informados y más un poquito más organizados y ya tenemos más claro como lo que estamos, todo lo que nuestras opiniones están llevando a cabo, que es como tener el plan más adecuado para toda la comunidad y para que se haga valer nuestra opinión en este problema de la contaminación ambiental y de la calidad del aire. Pero
Gracias.
sí hemos avanzado muchísimo y muchas gracias.
No, al contrario, gracias, Wendy. Y bueno, también cabe resaltar que esto es solo el comienzo, ¿no? Ahorita estamos identificando estrategias, estamos identificando acciones, pero dentro de los siguientes meses y bueno, años en realidad, pues nos vamos a dedicar a colaborar con todas las agencias colaboradoras, ¿no? Que son parte de este plan para implementar todo este tipo de estrategias y acciones. Entonces, mucho más trabajo por venir, pero siento que estamos en una buena dirección. Y parece que es todo. Monique, I'm going to turn it over to you. Voy a pasarle la palabra a Monique.
And I didn't realize I was on mute the whole time. I was saying, thank you so much, Wendy, for that comment. And I really appreciate that comment, because I hope folks coming out of this conversation start to see those dots connected, right? Start to see everything that you've been sharing the past several months, or actually year now, right? Being reflected and being incorporated into the draft plan as well. So I'm gonna head us to the next priority area, which was listed as other mobile sources. And so the goal there, again, based upon what we've been hearing from you all the last several months, the goal here is reduce emissions from Border Patrol activity on the west side of San Isidro, freight trains going through the heart of San Isidro, and the Brownfield Municipal Airport in Otay Mesa, and the airport in Tijuana as well. So thinking about other mobile sources, we're talking about trains, planes, and also off-road equipment from the Border Patrol. So these are some of the strategies, and we'll take kind of the similar format where I'll read a strategy and then highlight some of the actions under that strategy before I move on to the next one. So the first strategy here that you all helped develop, really there seemed like there was a lot of folks really interested in having more information about what are the impacts of these airports on the communities, right? So folks wanting research, air quality and health impacts of local airports, and sustainability plans of small airports to inform actions. So an action item out of this that we have drafted is partner with the university to support the following research to understand air quality and health impacts of airport operations, and help inform the development of strategies for emission reductions. And so looking at, let's see, looking at you know, different policies or techniques being applied at other small or similar type of airports, and seeing what can be integrated into the work here in the border region. The second strategy is around support emission reduction regulations for small aircrafts. And with that, an action there includes support the forthcoming rules by the US EPA that phases out the use of leaded aviation fuels nationwide by 2030. So this is a rule in which the EPA has signaled is moving forward. However, so you might be saying, well, why do we have it as part of the SERP, right? As I mentioned, for some other things that the California Air Resources Board is rolling out, it's really good to have the community on the record sharing that they're in support of that rule, because even though the rule is coming, it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be folks trying to stop that, right, or trying to weaken it. So it's really good that if the CSC, as a whole agrees upon, supporting those types of efforts, that it's on the record, so that if for some reason that rule is getting watered down, or if there's some opposition to it, it's easy enough for you all to mobilize and provide a letter of support, right? As we've done with other issues as well. Number 3, support policies, programs, and actions that reduce emissions from Customs and Border Patrol operations. And some strategies or some actions around that is having CSC members and APCD staff meet with CPB, U.S. representatives, U.S. senators to discuss concerns and air quality priorities. And secondly, advocate for policies, programs, and actions that reduce emissions from these sources, such as using ATVs less, institute no idling or revving policies, and dust mitigation measures on those dirt roads as well. A 4th strategy here listed is research and evaluate. Whoops, I skipped ahead. Research and evaluate emissions from train operations in San Isidro. I know some of this work is already being done. I think, Jenny, you're involved in this process, but also, again, more intentionally partnering with the university to support researching, the impacts of emissions from the trains going through the heart of San Isidro, in order to again, not only understand these health impacts, but to inform future actions as well. So certainly an interest in having more research there as well from this group. Strategy number 5 is support emission reduction regulations for locomotives. And so there's an in-use locomotive regulation being developed by the California Air Resources Board, so supporting that, and then also supporting amendments to CARB's existing cargo handling equipment. So at the rail yard, if there's any equipment that's being used that isn't zero emissions, having that transition and supporting that transition to take place. Strategy number 6, fund and support cleaner locomotive and rail yard or rail technology. So this includes developing an incentive program to replace older diesel rail car movers and locomotives with clean engine technology, and identifying grant funding to support the transition to cleaner, such as electric locomotive and rail technology. So really, for the actions in that strategy is really working with APCD's incentives team to help locate the funding for those, train replacement to cleaner trains, and making sure that that's prioritized for the community of San Isidro. Strategy number 8, reduce dust from construction activities. So work with the CSC, so this committee, to identify specific dust concerns from roadways, so which particular roadways, evaluate whether or not current APCD rules regarding dust from roadways is either needs to be better enforced, or maybe there needs to be some modifications to existing rules to make sure that folks aren't impacted from dust from roadways. This also includes, conducting outreach to off-road equipment operators such as the Border Patrol, and letting them know what those current regulations are to make sure that they are complying with that as well as increasing enforcement and APCD presence here as well. Also with this too is looking for opportunities to reduce dust from paved and unpaved roads in the community through road improvement projects or road paving projects, particularly prioritized by area, for areas identified by this particular group. Then moving on to strategy number 8, reduce dust from construction activities. And this was brought up several times by this group. So working with the CSC to identify the specific dust concerns from construction activities and evaluate, similar to the previous one, but evaluate if current APCD rules are adequate enough to address those issues, and they just need to be more enforced, right? Or do those rules need to be modified in order to address the issue as well? So doing that evaluation. And then number 9 is advocate for CARB's state implementation plan actions that support the reduction of emissions from trains, planes, and off-road equipment, or require zero emission alternatives, and what those specific state implementation plan actions include. It includes things such as future measures for aviation emission reductions, so supporting that, having this group on the record support those efforts. There's an in-use locomotive regulation coming down the pipeline, off-road zero emission regulations, so requiring future off-road equipment such as ATVs to be zero emissions, and then amendments to in-use off-road diesel fueled fleet regulations. So again, looking at what are these off-road equipment or off-road vehicles being fueled with? Is there a transition away from diesel fueled type fleets as well? So that really being the list in terms of looking at trains, planes, and off-roading equipment as well as being an important priority for you all. And so those were some of the strategies, or those were the strategies and some of the actions as well. And similar that we've done before, I want to also put up the post of the poll. Let's see. I know I went through those quite fast, but if you could take a minute, does it reflect, or is there still a lot more room for improvement there? As there's things that are missing that needs to that needs to be in more detail. And again, this is not the only time that you'll be able to share that with us. This is one of many times that you'll have to share this information with us. I'm going to give it another few seconds here before I end the poll. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Let me share the results with you all. So, still, those that the majority of those who participated in the poll said, that reflects, what we shared. And then also you have a couple of folks, right, saying it generally reflects, but there's still more opportunity to maybe clarify certain things, edit, add certain things as well. For any of those that put, generally reflects, is there anything specifically that you'd like to share right now that we can start making those changes and documenting?
I can go ahead, Monique. The only reason why I put generally and not like fully is just because I got hung up on number 6, which is fund and support cleaner locomotive and rail technology. And I think I fully support number 5, which is support emission reduction regulations. But like, I don't know, it's just like maybe I don't know enough about locomotives, but I think we are at the point where technology, there's definitely cleaner, but it's just the enforcement of it, correct? I think for the railroads, and I think like the biggest environmental disasters this year came from railroad companies trying to cut a corner. So I don't know if like the aspect of it, because like they got plenty of profits, but it's mainly I think the enforcement maybe, and it might be that I just don't know enough about locomotives, but that was the only reason. I'm just like not educated enough on the topic.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, Alejandro. And so really, your emphasis you'd want the emphasis to be more on the enforcement piece. One, simply because there are technologies out there, right? And there's more and more technologies and emerging technologies soon to come as well. Rather than focusing so much on kind of the funding and support, just because you feel that that industry is already well resourced. And what I'm hearing is maybe fund and support maybe other types of projects, maybe that aren't as well resourced. Is that what I'm hearing?
For me, yeah, for me, I think it's maybe like the funding part could go to other projects that will benefit the community greater than already funding technology that's already there and industry that has enough of resources.
Yeah, that's real. Thanks for sharing that, Alejandro. Mariano.
Yeah, so I kind of have a hypothesis just based off seeing the train at night pass, that they have to exercise maybe certain track rights or they're doing training. And I'm wondering, how I might be able to check into that to see whether, because a lot of the times I'll see the train, go to the border and then a few minutes later just immediately come back without any load, right? So I'm wondering if it's, is it a regulation that they have to exercise their track rights every now and then? And if that's the case, can that regulation be tweaked, which is less expensive than them having to, upgrade their equipment, where they don't have to exercise their rights needlessly and, burn fuel? If it's just for training, then maybe it's something we can't really do. But I guess I'm just wondering if there's a less expensive option that benefits them as well as us in some ways.
That's a really great point, Mariano. I don't know if anyone at CARB might know the answer to that right off the top of their head. But if not, this is something I think we certainly should investigate, or at the very least have an action to investigate that specifically, right? I'm gonna turn it over to see if anyone at CARB might know off the top of their head.
I do not, but we can certainly look into that question. I'm happy to look and talk with other program staff to get an answer for you, Mariano.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much, Melinda. But that's a really good point, right? Like maybe it's those regulations that need to be altered, right? For them to keep kind of their right to the track. Great points. Thanks, Alejandro. Thanks, Mariano. Anybody else like to share in terms of these strategies and actions? Awesome, great point. So I'm actually going to turn it back over.
Sorry, I had just a really quick comment. And
yeah,
I know that the charge of this whole meeting is to really look at actions that SDAPCD can assist with and CARB can help with, and they don't have jurisdiction over Mexico, but I just feel like some of the unique exposures that they have in San Ysidro are likely due to sources south of the border. And I just like to have that part of the response is to really keep pushing for those binational solutions, maybe a little more explicitly. And I don't mean to be difficult in any way, but I was just thinking that really this is a very unique community compared to a lot in California. And I want that to be featured, I guess.
Absolutely. And you provided the perfect segue to this next section here.
Oh, okay, sorry, thank you.
No worries. But I'm sure there's going to be additional strategies and actions that we could certainly add to this section. But this section is all about kind of cross-border pollution and working more directly and closely with the Mexican agencies. So thanks for elevating that, Jenny. You're right on time to bring that up. So I'm actually going to turn it to Domingo for this section, but please, as Domingo's going through this section, jot down some things that are missing, or maybe that could be modified as well, because this section is probably the lightest of all the other sections that we certainly want to make sure we're including those key priority areas. So I'm going to turn it over to Domingo.
Muchas gracias, Monique. Y en efecto, fue una perfecta introducción al siguiente tema, Jenny. Muchas gracias. En el área o en la categoría de estrategias transfronterizas, el objetivo principal es reducir emisiones. Perdón, creo que estoy escuchando la traducción al español en el mismo canal de español. ¿Ya estamos bien? Oh, pero si yo presento en español, no debería estar la traducción al inglés. Ok, perfecto, parece que ya está todo bien. Gracias. Entonces, nuevamente, el objetivo principal dentro de la categoría de estrategias transfronterizas sería reducir emisiones y olores provenientes de Tijuana, tales como aguas residuales en el río Tijuana o de la quema de basura y de actividades industriales. Siguiente diapositiva, por favor. Entonces, la primera estrategia que tenemos dentro de esta categoría es el avance de medidas que aborden los olores provenientes de aguas residuales no tratadas del río Tijuana. Este definitivamente ha sido uno de los temas de discusión que más ha resaltado en nuestras reuniones. Como todos ustedes saben, la descarga de aguas residuales en el río Tijuana proveniente de México afecta.
Domingo, for just a
¿Sí?
second, the interpretation, English interpretation is cutting in and out. I'm not able to hear it clearly. So I'm wondering if it's maybe the technology or if we might need. I can hear you a lot better now. Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, go for it, Domingo. Sorry about that.
Ok, no hay problema. Gracias, Mónica. Nuevamente, les comentaba que este tema de los olores provenientes de aguas residuales no tratadas del río Tijuana ha sido un tema que ha resaltado bastante en nuestras reuniones. Y siendo un problema que se genera en México, pues es un reto muy importante. Entonces, una de las medidas o de las acciones que se apoyarían dentro de esta estrategia sería apoyar el aumento de financiación y aceleración de las plantas de tratamiento de aguas residuales, tanto en Estados Unidos como en México. En los últimos años y en los últimos meses, en realidad ha habido mayor actividad en este tema. Inclusive, una de las acciones que incluimos aquí en el SERP, que es apoyar la declaración federal de que el problema de aguas residuales del río Tijuana es una emergencia estatal y nacional, ha sido algo que ya se ha tomado acción en la mesa directiva del condado de San Diego y que nosotros como agencia hemos apoyado, pero seguiremos con el mismo ánimo de seguir apoyando este tipo de medidas que traigan más atención al problema y más financiamiento también para poder abordar lo que se necesite abordar. Y bueno, la siguiente estrategia sería llevar a cabo un monitoreo a lo largo del río Tijuana y del Valle del Río para entender los impactos a la salud y los esfuerzos de mitigación de olores, ¿no? Entonces, parte importante de esto sería buscar asociarnos con alguna universidad para realizar un estudio de la calidad de aire con respecto a la contaminación procedente de olores ambientales del río Tijuana. Esto podría hacerse en colaboración también con la Agencia Ambiental de Protección Ambiental de Estados Unidos y otros organismos públicos mexicanos para que así identifiquemos agentes de contaminación y amenazas hacia la salud, desarrollar también estrategias de mitigación y también integrar lo que se llama ciencia comunitaria, es decir, incluir a miembros de la comunidad para crear diarios o para crear apuntes acerca de cuáles son las observaciones de los olores, en qué momento incrementan más, en qué momento vemos que mejora la situación, etcétera, para que se pueda incorporar también dentro de cualquier tipo de proyecto que se lleve a cabo. Otra estrategia sería trabajar en colaboración con el gobierno mexicano para abordar los problemas de la calidad del aire, que es un punto que acaba de resaltar nuestra colega Jenny. Y esto es algo que nosotros actualmente tenemos un diálogo abierto con las agencias del lado mexicano a través del grupo de trabajo de la calidad del aire de San Diego y Tijuana. Yo tengo la oportunidad de servir en ese grupo como copresidente y estamos continuamente compartiendo información y también ideas de proyectos, y muchas veces vienen también oportunidades de financiamiento por parte de la Agencia de Protección Ambiental de los Estados Unidos para abordar algunos de estos proyectos. Como ejemplo, no hace mucho, la ciudad de Tijuana, más bien el estado de Baja California, recibió fondos por parte de la Junta de Recursos del Aire de California, o CARB, para expandir su red de monitoreo a través de sensores. Y lo que estamos tratando de hacer es comprender un poco más cuál es la carga de contaminantes del lado mexicano, ¿no? En el lado de Tijuana tenemos un poquito más de tarea que hacer, porque el nivel de monitoreo que se está llevando a cabo allá, pues no es el mismo nivel que tenemos aquí. Entonces estamos tratando de colectar más información, de tener un mejor entendimiento de cuáles son las fuentes que están generando la mayor parte de la contaminación, para así también desarrollar estrategias, y nosotros como vecinos del lado norteamericano poder apoyar también ese tipo de estrategias y ver cómo podemos colaborar. Esto también, parte de las acciones bajo de esta estrategia implica seguir trabajando con estas agencias del lado de Tijuana o del lado de mexicano a través del programa de Frontera 2025, nuevamente, como les decía, para encontrar soluciones e identificar oportunidades de financiamiento. Y la última estrategia dentro de esta categoría sería realizar un seguimiento y elaborar un inventario de emisiones contaminantes procedentes de Tijuana. Parte de las acciones dentro de esta estrategia sería trabajar con el gobierno mexicano para recopilar datos en México a partir del monitoreo de sensores que les comentaba anteriormente, y también consolidar un inventario de emisiones con las agencias mexicanas, identificar cuáles son las fuentes de contaminación que afecten a ambos lados de la frontera. Tengo entendido que la Agencia de Protección Ambiental de Estados Unidos está trabajando de manera cercana con el estado de Baja California para apoyar una actualización del último inventario de emisiones que se llevó a cabo en el estado de Baja California, que si no me equivoco fue en el año 2015. Entonces, esperemos que muy próximamente tengamos información más actualizada que nos ayude a informar qué tipo de estrategias son necesarias apoyar en el lado mexicano, para que también veamos los beneficios de este lado de la frontera. Muy bien, entonces, como lo hemos hecho con otras categorías, ahí tienen en la pantalla la encuesta para que nos hagan saber su sentimiento en respecto a cómo vamos con estas estrategias, si estamos representando lo que nos dijeron de manera adecuada, si hace falta un poquito más de contenido o refinar un poquito más las estrategias para que se acerquen más a lo que ustedes quieren ver en este plan. Tenemos ahí 6 respuestas. Ojalá que nos puedan dar un poquito más. Teníamos 11 anteriormente. Muy bien. Pues parece que igual la mayoría de las personas que respondieron sienten que las estrategias reflejan lo que nos han compartido, y nos da mucho gusto escuchar eso. Y de igual manera nos da gusto escuchar también sus comentarios acerca de que haga falta un poco más nuevamente, estas estrategias son apenas un borrador de lo que vamos a ver en el plan, así que hay definitivamente oportunidad de hacer mejoras y de incluir más elementos que ustedes sientan que son necesarios. Así que vamos a mantener el diálogo abierto y como Monique ya lo había indicado anteriormente y ella compartió los links o los enlaces para que ustedes puedan acceder a estos documentos. Pueden también ustedes hacer sus comentarios cuando tengan oportunidad de revisar a más detalle todas estas estrategias y acciones. Sabemos que es mucha información la que estamos compartiendo en este momento, así que no sientan que esta es su única oportunidad de hacernos comentarios. Por mi parte es todo por ahora y le cedo la palabra nuevamente a Monique.
Yeah, thank you so much, Domingo. And you know, as we mentioned, right, this is probably the lightest one in terms of strategies and actions. And I see that there's a number of folks, probably more so than previous categories that are like, there's certainly more that needs to be done. So I want to hear from anyone that maybe chose number 2 right here, generally reflects what we shared. Love to hear more of your thoughts of what else could be in here, what else should be in here.
Hi, this is Jenny. I put something in the chat because it's kind of noisy here off and on.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let me go ahead and read that for you. It says maybe add to determine the most significant sources and toxicity of cross-border air pollution that affects the international border community. It may be a few sources that are most important, for example, open burning or municipal trash versus a specific type of manufacturing plant. Yeah, I really appreciate that comment, and we could certainly add that specifically under kind of the monitoring piece to be more precise of exactly what is that monitoring trying to identify as well. Jenny, if you're in a good spot, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yes, there's so many sources in Tijuana, and you can't address everything, but if it were something very specific, like open burning of municipal trash, it should be that has, like, plastics make a lot of really toxic compounds when they burn. Like, you know, they could help increase enforcement against open burning of trash, or, you know, there might be something. So I'm just thinking if we had a very specific things that were affecting us, it'd be easier to work on them than just all the different areas. That's what I was thinking, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Jenny. Anybody else like to share? What else needs to be included here? Or anything need to be taken out, right? Like we had the discussion previously. Oops. All right. I know it's been a long evening, so we're at 6:30 right now. Domingo, do you think we should do heavy duty vehicles, or should we save that conversation? How are folks feeling?
I think it's a lot of information that we've shared already, and it might be good to keep the heavy duty vehicles discussion all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my thought on that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, because I feel like we need to take a little breath. We've shared, I think, 4 of the 5 community priorities, community strategies, and for those who came in a little bit later, I'm gonna actually share a different part of my screen here. And we'll save the heavy duty vehicles for our next conversation in terms of strategies. But for those who came in a little bit later, all of these strategies and actions are in these documents here. Oh, thank you, Brenda. See, I encourage you to do what Brenda did, right? Start to add comments. Oops, I'm hearing some feedback. Not sure from where. Okay, that's better. So start to add comments to this document as well. I know that there's a lot to go through. We've gone through the majority of this document though, for the exception of heavy duty vehicles, which we'll cover the next time we get together, which will be in person. And we'll have an opportunity to also dive back into these issues that we've already talked about as well. What I want to do for those who came in a little bit late, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat box so you can access it. And then I'll also be sending out an email with these links as well, so that you all, and I'll do that tomorrow, so that you all can continue to access this in case you log off and you lose, let's see, and you lose the link. So there's a link to the English version. And here's the Spanish. Oops. One moment. Log on there. Again, feel free to add comments there. One of the things that we wanted to offer to you all is that we know that we can't always have everyone share kind of in these meeting spaces. So we wanted to provide to you all, and again, I will share this via email so that for folks who weren't able to join today, have an opportunity. But I wanted to share with you all an opportunity for you all to connect with either myself or Domingo one-on-one or for small group conversations. And I've started to list my my availability here, and then Domingo will list his availability for the following week of August, so like to mid-August. So he'll add that later on this week. But you can already start filling out when you might want to meet with us to have an opportunity to go into more detail, your thoughts on things that need to be added, things that need to be modified, right? Once you've had a chance to start to review the documents yourself. If it's easier sometimes for folks to be able to share verbally their feedback, we wanted to offer this space as well, both either individual or small group. Again, I put some times here that are during the day, the afternoon, and then also the evening as well, for folks who have more availability in the evening. And so I put some times and dates for next week and then also the following week. And then Domingo will be providing some dates and times for the week of, I think, August 6th or 7th. And so that we can make sure that we have an opportunity for y'all to share your thoughts with us and feedback as well. Again, I'll be sharing this via email so that you have this, and encourage you all to sign up for a time slot so we have the opportunity to connect with you and to continue to collectively develop these strategies and actions as well. Anything you wanted to add to that, Domingo?
Gracias, Monique. No, en realidad creo que lo cubriste todo, y nada más animar a todos a que revisen los documentos. Sé que compartimos bastante información hoy y son documentos largos, pero siento que vale la pena revisar para que así nos aseguremos de que estamos capturando todas las cosas que nos han compartido y que es importante incluir dentro del plan final.
Yeah, thank you so much, Domingo. And I just want to share my I think we didn't switch the channels. That's okay. That's okay. Thanks, Vicky. I just wanted to say thank you to you all, because all of this work is a reflection of all the work that you've all collectively have been doing the past few months together. And I also want to thank our partners at CARB and then also Sandag and Caltrans, who also helped identify some additional strategies in other places that we could also learn from and integrate into the international communities cert. So I just want to say thank you to both our partners, but also to you all who actually, this is a reflection of your work. All that I have done is just tried my best to summarize it as best as I'm able to. And so today was just one of many opportunities for you all to check our homework. Did we miss anything? Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? And we welcome that feedback completely and candidly as well. And so I know there was a lot today. So I do want to get us out of here a little bit earlier because that was more than most meetings, I would say. There's a lot to digest, but I just wanted to take a moment, you know, in this appreciation to like also reflect on what we, you know, collectively have accomplished so far. So far, this group has completed a community air monitoring plan, which, and you worked a lot with Kevin and David on our team on that. And the community air monitoring plan, you all help identify what were those key priority areas in the community that you wanted to make sure that there was monitors, and you also helped identify where to place those monitors. And so right now, our team at APCD is working to secure those sites and working with like the property owners, whether it be the school or the city, right? Or a small business, working with those kind of landowners to be able to site those monitors. And so we hope to, in the next couple of months, be able to provide an update on how that process is going. But you all helped inform where those monitors should be, what should be monitored as well, and why. You helped inform that, which is a big accomplishment. You also, as part of this process, also helped identify what are the key air quality priorities of this community, right? Of the international border communities, right? And so we started this conversation off with showing that list of those 5 key priority areas. But not only that, you all started to think of ideas on how to address each one of those priorities. So think of strategies and actions. And also in that process, not only coming up with your own original ideas, but also reviewed so many other documents. My little one just came in. Also helped review so many other documents. Yes, mijo. Yes, mijo. Hold on 1 second. Okay, mijo. I'm gonna be done in just a minute. Good ones, baby. All right, sorry about that. So you all also helped to identify those strategies, but looked at a lot of different documents to help inform that. Literally hundreds of pages that you all reviewed to help inform that. And then you also, 1 second. I don't know if you could hear that, but probably I could see Melinda laughing. All right. And then also you all helped started to cultivate a vision for what you want the community to be, what it should be, what it can be, right, in 2035. So I just wanted to take a moment to reflect with you all on all that you've accomplished so far in this process. And there's more accomplishments on the way. And right now is kind of the beginning of starting to see those accomplishments come to life, right, on the page, right? And hopefully, once we finish the CERP, we want to see those accomplishments move off the page and come to life in the community, right? So we're almost there. And so I just wanted to applaud you all in that process, and just take a moment to reflect. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a project or a process, it's hard to realize how much work has already been done. And so I wanted to take a moment to pause and acknowledge that, and thank you all for staying within this process, because all of this work and all of these strategies and actions you saw today, would not be possible if it weren't for your participation and continued participation in this project. And so just wanted to thank you all for that as well. I showed this slide at the beginning, but I just wanted to close with this before we open it up to if there's any kind of public comments as well. But what to look forward to next month, we're going to continue the strategies and actions conversation, starting off with heavy duty vehicles, but we're also going to circle back to the other priorities as well and do some activities around timelines and also setting some metrics, measurable outcomes, right, for each of these action items. So that's what we'll do when we meet actually in person next time, and we're trying to secure a location for that. So I just want to let you know that that is coming. That's around the corner, and we are right on timeline to get you the CERT document for your review starting in September. So with that, I want to turn it back over to Domingo for public comments, if anyone has any comments to share, or maybe even before that, if anyone wants to share any reflections as well.
Gracias, Monique. Pues sí, nada más recibir sus comentarios. Si hay alguien que tenga algún anuncio o una pregunta o algo que quieran traer a nuestra atención que no se haya incluido en la agenda del día de hoy, ahora es el momento de hacerlo.
Buenas tardes, soy Wendy. Yo sugiero algo que les quería comentar es que por favor la meeting de la siguiente mes, que es en persona, que no sea tan lejos, por favor. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sí,
Close to San Isidro, please. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Wendy. Estuvimos, el punto de hacerlo en Otay
Gracias,
era por... No, por nada, Wendy. Gracias por el comentario. Estuvimos tratando de hacer de alternar las reuniones tanto en la comunidad de San Isidro como en la comunidad de Otay. Así que podemos reevaluar en base a cómo se siente la mayoría con respecto a dónde podemos estar yendo con las reuniones. Pero la siguiente reunión definitivamente nos toca en San Isidro, así que estaremos en San Isidro, Wendy.
Gracias, a mí también me gusta que sea aquí.
Gracias, Marisela. ¿Algún otro comentario o anuncio por parte de ustedes que deseen compartir? Y bueno, como un anuncio por parte de nosotros como agencia, es que la reunión, si no me equivoco, fue en la reunión pasada que nos pidieron que contactáramos a la oficina del asambleísta David Álvarez para que viniera a este grupo pues a conversar y a tener un diálogo acerca de las medidas que está tomando con respecto a la regla de la Junta de Recursos de Aire de California que afecta a las flotas de camiones. Y bueno, contactamos a su oficina y pudimos lograr que planee venir a platicar con todos ustedes. Su agenda está bastante llena durante estos próximos meses que vienen, pero estamos planeando que en el mes de octubre podamos tenerlo como invitado en esta reunión, y definitivamente los animamos a que no falten a esa reunión y a que, de hecho, si desean invitar a algunos otros residentes, amigos, etcétera, que también les interese escuchar del asambleísta David Álvarez, definitivamente son bienvenidos. Esta es una es una reunión pública, así que está abierta para todos y vamos a estarlos manteniendo informados en ese respecto.
And Domingo, I just want to translate what you shared because it wasn't fully translated, and it was a very important point, was that you were essentially sharing that in October Assemblymember David Alvarez has committed to attending and providing a presentation to this committee about previous or recent actions at the joint committee, which the letter was about last time, and then also legislation specifically around the Advanced Clean Fleets rule. And so he will be presenting virtually at that meeting in October. So please invite your friends, your neighbors, particularly because this is an issue that you've all have of great importance for you all. I must have missed a lot of other things too that you shared, Domingo, but that first part wasn't shared in the English channel. So I want to make sure people know that. But that request came out of, I think Stan had made that request last time in this meeting. And so we wanted to let you know that we take any request that the group makes very seriously. We do our best to honor that. We've been working with our office to secure him to come and speak to that, which I think is really incredibly important because he hasn't been in this space, and there's a lot of actions that he's taking that can certainly impact this community as well. So I just wanted to uplift that. Domingo, is there anything else you wanted to add to that? Okay.
You captured it really well.
Cool.
Thank you, Monique.
All right, Liliana.
Hi, thank you. So I can go ahead and say it in English and in Spanish, because I know there's some issues with interpretation. So in English first, we are having, we just finished up 3 rounds of Blueprint 2.0 workshops. And Monique, I saw you there one of the nights. And I'd just like to say that Irma Cepeda and Margarita Amador were both there last night and provided really great comments and represented the issues in the international border community really well. So really appreciate their time for that. And anyway, so I just wanted to highlight that we finished up these workshops. We had community members attend, but there's also still opportunity for anyone that wants to give their comments on anything related to the Blueprint 2.0 draft right now until July 31st. And this is helping us prepare for our next final draft that will be submitting for public review at the end of August, to then take it to our CARB board in September 2023. So I've dropped the link in the chat, and it has the both English and Spanish links, documents, and even some one-pagers that are really useful to highlight some of the main actions and goals in the new Blueprint 2.0. And we welcome any comments, and you can feel free to email me for any questions around it. Obviously, July 31st isn't the last opportunity to comment on the Blueprint 2.0, but we are wrapping up the comments for this draft portion then. Let's see, GOV. Okay, entonces en español. En español. Bueno, muchas gracias a los miembros de la comunidad que atendieron unos talleres que tuvimos. Fueron una serie de 3 talleres y llegó Irma Cepeda y Margarita Amador, y si hubiera otra persona ahí que no nos dimos cuenta, por favor díganos para también agradecerles por su tiempo y sus comentarios. Estaba diciendo que las preocupaciones de la comunidad fronteriza fueron bien representadas durante nuestros talleres en CARB, y entonces los talleres eran de nuestro plan marco 2.10 para que es nuestras guías para cómo implementar el AB 617. Y ahorita tenemos un borrador de estas guías del Plan Marco 2.0 que estamos buscando aportes y comentarios hasta julio 31. Y todo esto es para ayudarnos a llegar que nuestro consejo de CARB, que la Cámara de CARB adopte las nuevas reglas, las nuevas guianzas que es el Plan Marco 2.0. Eso sería en septiembre. Entonces, muchas gracias por su tiempo y cualquier aportes o comentarios que tengan sobre las guianzas que tenemos ahí. All right, I think I got it. Thank you all.
Thanks, Emilia. All right, anything else anybody would like to share? Great. Well, I just want to say thank you. Gracias a todos and have a good night. Buenas noches todos.
Buenas noches a todos, muchas gracias.
Thank you, Domingo. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you so much.
Buenas noches, gracias.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches y
noches.
gracias a todos.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias a todos. Bye.
Bye, Monique.